Did Marvel make a fantastic new movie? Let's go for a walk and talk about Fantastic Four First Steps. So let's start out with what the movie's about, and there are going to be spoilers in my plot summary, so if you have not seen the movie and you still want to without any spoilers, maybe come back to this afterwards. So to start out, the Fantastic Four are Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. He has the power to stretch all the parts of his body. Then there's Sue Storm, who is the Invisible Woman. She can make herself and other objects invisible, and she can generate force fields. There's Johnny Storm, who is her brother, and he is the Human Torch. He can ignite his body, and he can control fire, and he can use the fire to fly. And then we have the Thing, which is Ben Grimm, who is Reed Richards' best friend, and he's essentially made of rock and is super strong. And his catchphrase is, "It's clobbering time." So it starts out with these characters having already been established as the Fantastic Four, and they've been that for a while. We have their backstory given to us via exposition. They went into space and were struck by some sort of cosmic rays, and it changed their DNA, and now they have superpowers, and they're known as the Fantastic Four. We see that they have already beaten some other villains and solved some major problems. So through mainly Sue Storm's diplomacy, they have created something like world peace, or at least global cooperation. And so things are going pretty well. Sue Storm and Reed Richards are married, and it turns out that although they had been trying to conceive for a while, they didn't think they would be able to have a baby. But now Sue is pregnant, they're gonna have their first child, and that is the initial conflict in the story, that they just need to get ready for this baby. Now, the Fantastic Four are also really famous celebrities in their world, which I didn't mention, but it takes place in sort of a retro future, reminds me of the Jetsons. It was a really fun aesthetic, really liked that aspect of it. So the Silver Surfer comes in the midst of the baby preparation and heralds Galactus, the Devourer of Worlds. The Fantastic Four then decide that they need to go and confront Galactus, either talk him out of destroying their planet, or defeat him in combat. So it's been established that the Fantastic Four have not been back into space since they initially got their powers. However, they have some pretty advanced spacecraft and suits and everything that Reed Richards has been working on, but just hasn't gone back into space. So they are prepared for this journey. They go following the Silver Surfer's signal that they created a tracker for her, and they manage to find Galactus devouring a world. He grants them an audience, which the Silver Surfer tells us is rare, that he is honoring them. And they go to meet him. He says that he's going to devour their world. He's just a constantly hungry god, and there's nothing that they can do about it. He scans them, notices something unusual about the baby that Sue is carrying, and says, "That baby has unlimited potential and is the potential solution to my constant hunger, and I will spare your world if you give me that child." And they say no, and Sue immediately goes into full-blown active labor. They have to leave while she's in labor, and she has to give birth on the spaceship as they race home. As soon as they get home, the people are asking them about their trip and how they defeated Galactus, assuming that they returned because they were successful, at which point Mr. Fantastic has to inform the public that they did not defeat Galactus, and in fact that even though he offered a solution to spare their world, that they didn't take the deal because the price was too high. And when the people find out that the price was their son, they're pretty upset about it, which I actually think is exactly what people would do, even though no one would realistically be willing to give up their child. So the Fantastic Four are now dealing with the fact that they need to find a way to defeat Galactus, and that the people of Earth are upset at them for not being willing to give up their child in order to save the world. Clearly the people of the world are thinking this is a one versus everyone scenario, and the Fantastic Four are thinking this is our specific child. So the baby is already born at this point and doesn't show any signs of powers, and is just a super cute little baby being a baby. They imply that the baby doesn't sleep a lot, but you don't really get to see the baby doing anything that would make things difficult. So Reed immediately gets into trying to find a solution, and what they finally come up with is they're going to use this teleportation system that he's come up with and is in very prototype stages to move the entire planet from one spot to another so that Galactus can't find them. They need global cooperation for this, but luckily they've already set the groundwork for all that with their previous diplomatic stuff that mainly Sue did. So they get to work on that immediately. And then the Silver Surfer comes and destroys all of the bridges that they need in order to teleport the world. So this plan is no longer a viable one, and they need to pivot and come up with something else. During this time, Johnny is also working on a translation of some transmissions they received from space that turn out to be both from the Silver Surfer's home planet and from other planets that have been destroyed. So he's working on that in a secondary plan to try to stop Galactus. So they determined that instead of moving the entire world, they can use their one remaining teleportation bridge to try to teleport Galactus away from Earth. They use Franklin, the baby, as bait for the trap, and Galactus almost falls for it, but at the last moment he senses that the baby is no longer there and doesn't go into the trap. So then the Fantastic Four have to fight Galactus to push him into the trap, and with the help of the Silver Surfer making her own self-sacrifice, they are able to get Galactus into the trap, teleport him away from the Earth, and in the process of all this, Sue exerts herself so much that she dies. But then baby Franklin is actually able to use his powers that we haven't seen up to this point to save her life, and then he claps his little hand. It's really cute. There are some post-credit scenes. I won't spoil those for you because I don't think that that's relevant to whether or not this was a good movie. But I would like to say that I thought this was by far the best iteration of a Fantastic Four movie. I recently went back and watched the other existing Fantastic Four movies. So the first ones with Chris Evans, and then the remake that went a totally different direction with teleporting to a different dimension rather than going into space for them to get their powers. And this one was definitely better than any of those. I kind of liked that they didn't bother with rehashing the origin story and telling us that again. They decided to go with, these are already established superheroes. They decided to explore motherhood and sort of some of those concepts. So the Silver Surfer turns out to have been a mother on her own planet, and she decided to serve Galactus specifically because he would spare her planet and therefore her child. And so that's why she became the Herald. It also explores the idea of this kind of motherly sacrifice because Sue is totally unwilling to contemplate giving up her son in order to save the rest of the world. And I think those are really valid. Oddly enough, they did not have these two characters interact with this conflict. The Silver Surfer ends up talking to Johnny about her past, and he talks about, you know, not wanting to give up the baby and how she had made a sacrifice and how sort of similar the situation was. And the Silver Surfer says if the baby was old enough to make that sacrifice, he would choose to do it himself. So they don't really have the two moms talk about it, which was kind of a missed opportunity, but still good. I would say the one thing that I thought was very different about this movie from other superhero movies is that they solve a lot of their problems with science, and a lot of the movie is about them thinking through the strategies and using global cooperation and their combined intelligence to solve the problem rather than using their strengths and superpowers to solve the problem. And there really aren't that many fight scenes. It's kind of just the big fight scene at the end. They don't even really fight the Silver Surfer. So it's just kind of that one fight scene. I thought that was kind of strange, but that overall I liked it, and it makes it a bit more family friendly if you're thinking about taking your kids to see it. Definitely closer to something you could take your children to versus a lot of the other superhero movies that have come out lately. I had heard that there was some controversy about Sue being kind of the leader of the team. I didn't think that that came across at all in the movie. I felt like Mr. Fantastic was still definitely the leader. And I also heard that there wasn't enough of Johnny being a womanizer, which is apparently a huge part of his character. The other two Fox movies for the Fantastic Four, they definitely have a big play on that. And in this one, they didn't really play into it too much. They kind of talk about it, but they definitely don't show a whole lot with that. I honestly thought that was fine, and again, kind of made the movie more family friendly. So that was good by me. The movie is rated PG-13, so that means you shouldn't bring kids younger than 13 to see the movie. That being said, I did think it was pretty toned down for a superhero movie. Not a ton of violence. So overall, I would say it's one of the more family-friendly superhero movies I've seen. I wouldn't take my 6-year-old or any of my younger kids to see it, but I do think 13 is for sure okay to see it, maybe even a bit younger than that. I thought the movie was fairly family-friendly. No weird themes that they were exploring. One of my other things that I thought was sort of odd about it is they did a really terrible job of portraying what pregnancy and birth are like. No pregnant woman should be going up into space anywhere near how close she was to giving birth. They won't even let you fly. There's no way that would have been okayed by anyone. And then I also thought it was crazy that, like, one, she just goes straight into active labor, not how it works at all, gives birth like immediately, not how it works at all. I mean, movies are not really known for portraying birth in an accurate way at all, but also with the no gravity, the whole spaceship would have been just absolutely disgusting, and then the baby comes out like basically totally clean, and of course none of that is accurate either. But of course they weren't going to show that. That would be crazy. I thought it was interesting that they decided to go with Sue giving birth in space when that would obviously complicate things in a whole lot of ways, and they kind of just glossed over that. So, you know, it's movies. We'll suspend our disbelief. Overall, I thought the movie was fairly family friendly. I thought it was really good, so fun. Loved the retro future aesthetic. It is supposed to be in a different dimension from Earth, and they state which iteration of Earth it actually is. I don't think that affects how I feel about the movie at all. I think it made sense that it was in a different dimension because clearly it was different from the Earth we're experiencing. So did you see the new Fantastic Four movie, Fantastic Four First Steps? Did you like it? Did you think it was true to the comics? Did you think it was the best Fantastic Four movie so far? And do you think Disney is making a turnaround with their movies to hopefully make ones that people actually want to go see? Let me know in the comments, and please like and subscribe.